Yeah, you learned that the hard way.
I did.
Only because I use this to kind of figure. We're ready. Okay. Well, we will go ahead and call to order the Independent Ethics Review Board on Wednesday, October 15th at 5:29 p.m. Waiting to see if that would change. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
No, we don't.
5:30. Our first item are the minutes, a consideration of an action on the minutes for the July 17th, 2025 meeting. Were there any changes or modifications needed to those minutes?
Doug said he wasn't here, but he was shown as voting yeah. Present.
If I had been here, I would have voted yes. Regardless.
Need the support.
I was coaching.
We'll make that amendment. Were there any, was it just the one? No, it's also on the adjournment too, it looks like.
Yeah, it's in the quorum present, in the minutes, and then the adjournment.
What felt like you were here, Doug?
You know,
You were here in spirit
That is true.
and very supportive in spirit.
you make that change, and I make a motion for approval.
All in favor? And it's approved
With the minutes modification.
with the modification. Thank you. It's good. Good catch.
We need you.
Okay, let's move on to the articles of interest. We have some great discussion, and we also have for this and for the next item, a copy of our code, so that we can refer back. But the first item is, or the first article rather, is out of Nashville, Tennessee. And Best Brand CEO claimed that a council member asked for $500,000 to advance a warehouse project in her district. Now, it has not been investigated yet. This is the high level allegation. Should this occur and get to our desk, what are our thoughts on this particular instance? Knowing that we don't have the facts, like what would it pass the preliminary? Should we investigate or not? And if it did, then what are some of the things we would want to see or would need to better understand?
So yes, I would say we would investigate. And I mean, understand, I mean, we would have to find some type of documentation or some level of information of what transaction discussion transpired.
And obviously for our purposes, we would want it to have, this is a news article, so we don't have the actual allegation, but assuming that it had the section of the code that that the allegation was in violation of, it went through Meredith's office, it applied to the individual, obviously it's a council member, so they are subject to the code. Does anybody think that we would not want to investigate this?
I agree 100%.
At any level, demanding a bribe is also criminal. Would you have us wait to adjudicate it or hear it until a criminal proceeding was done? Or we would just operate independently? And would we be hampered in gathering evidence because they wouldn't want to turn something over that could be used in a criminal trial?
I would try to do it concurrently, because you have a different set of regulations. I still wish we had the perception. But we would do it concurrently to the best of your ability. If you had to pause it, you would. One of the reasons I added this article and the next one is because of your discussion last meeting as to what the sanctions would be. So I was curious to see, by providing you the two different articles, how you would look at your amendments.
Can we also find out the outcome or what you find out afterwards? I mean, I don't know if somebody, I'm just curious, because we're supposed to, it says this Friday to submit evidence and the hearing scheduled next Friday, so.
I will put a Google alert on it.
Just curious.
There was a,
Inquiring minds.
phone call, so it's gonna be tough to establish.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I don't know how.
So.
Let's say followed up with an email.
I still follow within the, these are true.
Well, and if anybody else was present, you know, so there, right, because there could be a corroborating witness one way or the other.
What section do you think this would be in violation of?
U-80.
So I also put 2-80. I also put, depending on the language around it and depending on like the conversation and how it was communicated potentially, even possibly 278, if it were,
Yep.
you know, presented in that manner. It depends. I wrote both of those down as possible. Obviously, we would need more information. So should we find that this is actually substantiated, that they had the wherewithal to send an email to confirm that this was in fact the intent and that this was, for all intents and purposes, a bribe? How do you feel about, because we're gonna be moving into, after this article and the next one, the fines and penalties and sanctions discussion, or the outcomes discussion? Where do you think that we would land, or you would land as a board member, as far as what should be imposed?
Well, right now, this is an allegation.
Yes.
We don't know that it was paid.
Yes,
So 278 would be pending if there was actual receipt.
right, so we're
Then it
just,
would change the outcome of the penalty, wouldn't it?
yeah, so but hypothetically, say we have an audit trail, like it's documented in writing and it is the amount that it was and it did occur. And let's say it violated 278 and 280 in some capacity.
At $500,000, I would probably.
Way above any gift that,
Pardon?
that's way above any gift that would be allowed.
Yeah, I would probably want to say, what's the maximum we could do? I mean, I don't think it's right if you take $1,000.
277A as a possible violation, sure. I don't either.
Yeah.
That's why I had thought it was a 277A.
Mhm.
I am curious to hear, you know, the other sections as well, because I learned from your interpretation. I would have put it as a 277A.
I think it's a lot of them.
272, it's 270.
I mean, truly, right? Like it's
277, it's almost but 280 these. The city, it's doesn't say it's.
what was unclear to me and why I went 280 and 278 was I couldn't tell if it was a business relationship or if the money went to the city, like they required a donation to a different part of the city. So then was that doing business with, I was very unclear about.
Additional information.
Right, was it she getting it or was it being given to the city, wanting that money for the city?
Correct.
So and there, not that either one is good, but there's a clear difference.
So I like hearing this discussion because I didn't think of it in that vein. So when I do my legal opinions, it's helpful to see how you all interpret things. So when
The rebuttal said something to the fact that it was reportedly for community benefit. So my question was, was this a donation to a city project? Was this actually to a city department? That's where I keyed in because the like what they're alluding is they did not just give them the money, it was for something specific and possibly for the community benefit. So something that possibly benefited the city in some capacity.
I thought the warehouse was the thing that was supposed to benefit the committee, but maybe not, I don't know. Or
Oh,
they-
understood.
So-
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It could be any, what
Yeah.
you said, it could be anything. It could be $500,000 to advance the warehouse and that money.
Went directly toward that, right?
Or, it also could be the city takes the money and uses it for something else. And this person gets to do their warehouse project.
Mhm.
So if it were going directly to her versus we'll work on getting you that warehouse contract, but you have to put in a new park.
Right, that kind of thing.
Where's that trail going? And if the community's benefiting from it, it's still not ethical,
Right.
but it may not be as bad.
That's,
Well, and-
that's not what it's saying.
And to your point, if it's a phone call, you might not have the intent, but you will have the dollar trail at some capacity, right? So you'll be able to at least follow the money as far as who received it.
If the bribe was,
Yeah.
if the bribe was given, if the bribe wasn't given,
Right.
there's no trail.
Right.
Unless there's a witness or unless there's a follow-up email, which
Is the asking, just alone asking for that?
Is illegal, absolutely.
it was done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we got evidence that there was a true ask and it was a personal ask, not do something for the city on behalf, then I think it's serious. I mean, way more serious than,
Yeah, to me, if it was a true bribe for that one individual, I'd want them kicked off city council. If I was in their district, I would not want somebody that's willing to accept a bribe as my city council person.
Well, and soliciting, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, the
soliciting.
allocation is that they
Yeah.
solicited the money as well.
So that's even more than a financial penalty. This is actual, getting the person off the board.
And I guess it depends, even if the amount was less, if it was half, 250.
It doesn't matter.
So significant.
It is significant.
Well, so no, but go through that. If it was $1,000, if it's truly a bribe, that person should be gone. In my book, I'm sorry, I'm too black and white.
I agree.
That is just unethical behavior.
Saying a bribe is a bribe.
Correct. It doesn't matter how much it is. If they're gonna facilitate or act in a way be based on that bribe, then yes, absolutely.
I agree with you, but where does it stop?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you ball tickets. I'm gonna give you.
So,
So if it's ball tickets and they report it,
yes, exactly. See, that's the thing, if they report it. I got tickets to the Super Bowl when it was here, and I had to go through all of this stuff at my employment, but I was able to go.
What if, just hypothetical, what if the council member said, okay, I'm gonna interpret this a different way. We're gonna go through with this warehouse project, but in order to do this, we need an additional $500,000 for this ancillary project so that it can move forward. We need a parking lot to go with the warehouse.
we're gonna have to.
And in order to do your warehouse, you're gonna have to pay for the $500,000 for the parking lot.
That would be different. That would absolutely be a
Then-
different discussion.
The council member isn't the one benefiting
Right.
solely from it. And if it was something like that, where it's an ethical question, but they're not benefiting it, I would at least do a letter of reprimand going, that didn't smell right. We understand what you did and why you did it. Let's use other channels for that.
So what would you say if the parking lot isn't funded, the project doesn't go through?
Say it again, Steve. Couldn't hear you.
What if we said if the parking lot is not funded by this $500,000, then the project isn't approved? Are you holding that parking lot over the contractor's head? That $500,000 parking lot to complete the project? Yeah. And-
I think that's, I have a broader question on like council member authority, in a singular,
But there's two ways. Have you approved the project? And if the project's been approved, all of a sudden you say, whoa, we need a parking lot here.
Mhm.
We can't do the project unless you give us the money for the parking lot. I mean, whereas, to your hypothetical.
To me, that would be more of a city council discussion around, do they want to fund how they might do it versus it being an ethical issue.
Yeah, and in that situation, I don't
Yes.
think that the CEO would come out and kind of frame this. Oh, this city council member has asked me for $500,000. No, in that situation, that sounds more like the normal course of business where
Mhm.
conversations are being had. If we do this, then we'll need this. This seems like they're intending to suggest nefarious intent. So anything else?
Not if the project's been approved, right? The project was approved. Now all of a sudden you pull out a parking lot out of your back pocket saying, hey, now we need money for a parking lot. Where's that? Where's that line?
The city council can do that. They could approve a project and then decide, oh gosh, we need to do this other thing. We're not gonna, they could do that. They can get out. I mean, that's something that's in their authority. Now, if they've signed a contract, there's probably contractual language to get out of it and may have to pay the contractor a certain amount. That's in a contract. You can generally get out of contracts. So I think that's a different kind of situation.
Sugarland, our city council doesn't negotiate contracts. That would be done ahead of time. And if they wanted the parking lot, that would have been asked for
It would have been part of the original contract.
right before city council even got you get that piece of paper, you have a yes or no. And our city council,
Something at that amount, you would think they'd have to do a RFP because
Mhm.
that's
Right.
not just, oh, okay, you got it, no, they've got to put it out.
That's right. That's a good point.
Materiality threshold.
I still think it's that, who's the money benefiting? Where's it going? And if it's a personal benefit, absolutely throw everything at them.
Lots of questions.
Would if Sugarland wanted the parking lot or something like this happened, would city council say, hey, you know, we really want this warehouse, see if while you're negotiating, you can get them to add the parking lot at their own expense? Or would our city council not even have that opportunity to request that?
So I'm not entirely sure I'm on the same thought process you are on. If it's parking lot for the warehouse.
Yeah.
Well, then whoever's building the warehouse by code is required to provide parking for their warehouse, so this discussion wouldn't come up. If it's for parking over here, then that's gonna be a different discussion because we have a taking argument as to whether or not we're requiring you to make off-site improvements that you didn't cause. So we could say you have to add a turn lane because of the number of traffic you're putting in, and you're creating that. So it's your responsibility to put the turn lane in because it's as a result of your development. Or we now need a traffic signal because you're building a warehouse, it's gonna have 1,000 people come, traffic's gonna go up. But if we were to say over here, we want a parking lot that has nothing to do with it, we can't legally do that because it's a taking.
Okay.
That would never come
So
up.
we could say, give us a better parking lot at Memorial Park and you can build it in.
No, because there is no impact.
Right.
Whatever this development did has nothing to do over here. We cannot require that. We can only require off-site improvements that are directly related to the impact of this development. So if you put a neighborhood in, a subdivision, we can require you to put widen a road from 2 lanes to 4 lanes because you're putting all these residents in there and they need to have access. So because you put the extra drivers on the road, the city can say you now have to do the road to accommodate the extra drivers.
But again, that would happen before the original contract was signed anyway, wouldn't it?
Well, the city, this would be a zoning issue. If the city didn't own the warehouse, this would be a zoning issue. There would not be a contract. So city would approve a zoning, like a conditional use permit saying, yes, you could build on this location. And as it goes through planning and zoning commission and all that, there would be requirements for handicap parking, landscape screening, entrance out, road cuts. There's a lot of things that go into, yes, retention. So there'd be a lot of things, but yes, their traffic and their parking would be set by code. It would have nothing to do over here. We would never negotiate something offsite.
So it sounds like in Sugarland, we already have a system in place to avoid city council from making an ask like that unless it was for personal gain.
I believe so, yes.
Well, we have procedures to prevent that as well.
Right, and that $500,000 request. Or if it happened like this here, would, you know, not that council couldn't share the money with other people on council, but here it would only buy them one vote.
I can see why you want me to put the Google alert. There's a lot more information.
Yeah, we just want to know.
It's on court TV.
There, I mean, and I think that's the point too, right? Like, this is obviously a partial allegation, and, you know, there were a lot of facts that we would want to see.
So if it were to just benefit the council member exclusively, what would we do? And if it were to benefit the community, what would you do then? If it just benefits one person, I agree, throw them out, well, ask for a recall.
Would you put a monetary fine on it?
Yeah, I mean, whatever the maximum is, and
Because that was your discussion at the last meeting, and I think that maybe I had such a narrow mind reading this because I tried to find something to fit that.
yeah,
I wasn't as broad as y'all were thinking about it, but sometimes the box is very small. But considering your discussion last week, I added this curious as to what you thought a fine should be on a potential $500,000 bribe. So in addition to the recall, what would you think that threshold would be?
Yes, we're gonna discuss that later on, huh? Because that's towards the end of the packet.
Yes, and so this was supposed to lead into that
The
discussion.
catalyst.
The fine should be substantial. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some fines in your packet that you gave us that were $500, which is not a fine. Overall of them. So. And then
Cost of doing business.
the other fines that were substantial, and I'd lean on.
it's enough to leave them a legal defense fund, and that's about it.
Well, this was an article to have
Yes.
Yeah.
discussion to give you an example.
Yeah,
And to that end, I mean, if we look at the next one too, that I think that'll
yes.
also keep the train moving into that. This one is out of San Francisco. Mayoral candidate, and are we calling him Mark Farrell or Farrell? Cause that would be, I went back and forth when I was reading this. I couldn't decide.
Farrell.
Farrell, all right. So he's already agreed to pay the largest campaign finance ethics fine. He double dipped using money meant for a city ballot measure campaign. He will pay nearly $108,000 to settle 8 counts of campaign finance violations. There were contributions to a related PAC for ballot measures that he took roughly, it said $93,000 in contributions from the PAC without refunding it for various expenses, allegedly. And he attributed this to an accounting error, said, oops. The ticking time didn't measure out. And so eventually he was simply fined $191,000. So there actually, it sounded like multiple things that he had done over time. There's something else I wanted to highlight too. We can talk to the actual allegations and penalties, but I thought it was interesting to note that he was calling out the Ethics Commission, that they don't have guidelines around the issue because it was released and expedited right before the election. So I thought that was of interest for us and our procedures too to discuss. But first, let's look at what he did. Would this be a problem here? What would we want to see? And do we think the fines that they did assess, do you think they're appropriate?
I have a just generic question. What is our campaign limit? Contribution limit?
We don't in the city, it's by the state law.
And what is the state law one? Do you know?
I don't know because I don't do campaign finance.
That's okay. So that was one, and then do we also have the same kind of rules or laws regarding campaign versus propositions, like what was in this example? Where you know, there's money to donate to the campaign. And then this individual took money out of this propositions bucket. The idea was that there was funding to, I guess, promote a proposition, and there was money taken for that proposition he used for his campaign. That's what he did wrong, didn't pay it back to that proposition. Do we have that same, that same kind of thing?
In the ethics ordinance, no.
Mhm.
These would be state law violations.
Still, okay.
I believe Dallas and Austin have these type of limitations where they do say the maximum contribution from a donor could be X amount. This is the max you can take in your campaign total, trying to make it fair so that any person, that you don't have to be a certain economic group to be able to run for office, that it's actually open to everyone. But we don't have those here in Sugar Land, so this is not exactly apples and oranges. It was just really challenging to find similar articles. I thought one part that would be interesting was the fact that he was fined $191 but settled it for $25.
That was the previous
Yes.
one.
The
Yes.
previous one, yeah.
So I didn't know how y'all would discuss the fact that it got reduced significantly.
The other question is, in the packet, you showed the different cities, and San Francisco said punished by a fine of not more than 10,000 for each violation. Now, I thought it said something like 8, or maybe it doesn't say the number. Yeah, it says to settle 8 counts. Okay, my math,
So we
8.
got up to 108.
Yeah, but my math, 8 times 10 is 80. So yeah, where did it get to 108, or how does that happen? So that was what I went, wait, the math doesn't work for me.
And you might have had to reimburse the city for.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's for some legal fees or something. Okay, so I wasn't the only one that's.
No, and there were,
This was also to show the size of the cities.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a city like the size of Nashville and of San Francisco, so these are large cities where this is occurring.
Looked at individuals in Texas, you have a $2,700 limit, tax 5,000. Says there's no limit on contributions for corporations or labor unions.
San Francisco, though, does seem to have a lot of issues because they have a lot of people that have been penalized for this.
Oh, you should read into it. The same guy was
yes,
penalized
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, that's what it said.
They
Yeah.
reduced his fine to $25,000, so he broke the record before. And they
Correct.
reduced it to 25,000, and then broke the record again, and they didn't reduce this one. So
He's a go-getter.
Rigor.
He always wants to do this better than his personal
What's
best.
this guy doing in office? I mean,
Reviewing the campaign finance reports that get filed. I mean, because these, unless he's lying on them, which maybe he is, but you have to put all your donors and you have to put where all your expenses are. And for the city of Sugar Land, those items are filed with the city secretary, not with the state. But they're available and you can go out on the website and look and see who's received funds, who they've received them from, and then what they've spent their funds on. And so if the expenses going out of his campaign were larger than the inflows, because the PAC contributions weren't reported, because they should have gone somewhere else, then somebody should have been looking at that report.
Mark, that's something you said, penalties. Do you think the penalties should be for the size of the city? Less for Sugar Land, more for San Francisco?
No, I pointed that out to show that it was hard to find newspaper articles that I had to go to cities of this size to find it. But on the example language, I found some smaller cities and larger cities that all thought 500 was okay, and then larger cities that had very large dollar amounts. I guess I'm trying to point out that it's all over the place. But at the end of the day, it's y'all's recommendation as to what you think the morals of our city should be. And what you think the
Steve, that $500 isn't a fine.
Yes.
I would agree. That's the cost of doing business, I believe.
that's what I said.
Okay, before I was on here, when this was rewritten, didn't you guys change it to like 2,500? Or is ours 500 here? Probably Sugar Land,
$1,000.
or is it a 1,000? I don't
I
remember.
believe it's been $1,000.
It's what? What'd you say?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was.
page 12 of our packet. 2,000.
2,000. So.
Currently it's 2,000 maximum fine. And since we're kind of transitioning into more of the like penalty discussion, is everyone okay if we go ahead and move to the next? To the workshop itself?
I'll make one
Yes,
comment,
yes,
page
please.
12, required filings. Paragraph 3, the paragraph 2, it simply says a political committee. Since we've read this thing, should we add action to that, a political action committee, or is that cutting hairs? Is that not necessary? And I'm just throwing it out there.
Repeat that again, I did.
So right now we have a political committee which makes contributions or expenditures. Should we change the wording to a political action committee?
Because that's what's used in the Texas ethics.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, and see, this wasn't even a fact. This was just a proposition. The money was in this proposition and ballot. It wasn't even from a PAC. You just took it from.
Yeah. Pack.
It does say, I thought it
There's
was
a-
that. I think he established a particular proposition. Yes.
So political committee is the accurate term. We don't have to throw in,
A, we don't have to say
We don't have to-
PAC.
we don't have to put in political action committee. There's no reason to do that. I'm just throwing that out.
Is there a difference legally between?
A political committee and a political action committee.
Can you tell me the section one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure, it's section D. Or in section 2-95.
Okay, I had it on my phone.
I apologize. I did not print the entire, I got you. I didn't print the entire ordinance.
Alright.
If it were up to me, I'd put the word action in there. Because anything that you go out to the Texas Ethics Commission for, all of the different reporting use the full term PAC. And they have the action in there.
And that's gonna go in the election code as well.
We do both.
Are there
Can't go.
political committees that are non-PACs?
I've only known PACs.
Under the election code on campaign reporting, I believe it's called a PAC.
Okay.
I can add that to your next meeting, bring that back as a revision. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, alignment would be really helpful to make sure that the clarity's there.
Yes. I'm sorry, the section was 295.
295, section D.
While I'm at it,
Right.
paragraph 4, subsection B, and this is just, I guess, a pet peeve. Define reasonably. Define reasonably. At the end of that sentence, it says,
Recently
About-
discovered.
yeah, or after the error should have reasonably been discovered. I mean, hey, we all make mistakes. But, you know, there's some mistakes that are made on purpose. So I, again, just throwing that out to the group, to see what the feeling is about that.
That Meredith, that word reasonably though is used pretty consistently in contracts that I see. So isn't that a term that
It's a
gets?
term of art. I can get the state law typical definition of it, but this was a very big discussion on the first time that you all got together to write. Years ago when we were in the other room, when y'all did the whole ordinance. I think it's the whole evening.
Defining reasonably.
Yes, but I can get you a definition of reasonable.
Well, I mean, it's, we think of court and criminal beyond a reasonable doubt. What would a reasonable person think?
We'll be defining words and phrases. I can bring that to you.
So now do we move to that next workshop agenda item?
Oh, yes, but I'm just reading this, sorry, I'm just gonna read it out loud to you that way, so it's under section 4, where it's contribution and expenditure reports required to be filed with the city secretary's office under the Texas Election Code, A section, city will post. B, if an individual inadvertently files an incorrect or incomplete report, it is her responsibility, his or her responsibility, to file an amended report as soon as possible, no later than 14 calendar days after discovery of the error, or after the error should have been reasonably discovered.
And in that case, we're talking about the accounting, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just putting my old accounting hat on. I mean, you reconcile your accounts every month, so if the math ain't math, then you'll find it pretty quickly.
And that, a reasonable person would say exactly that,
Yeah.
that if they're doing things the way they should be, they would come and find an error in their accounting. And so, yeah, that
So in
time,
that case, like month end close and then 14 days beyond that, so no longer than 14 days after
and I mean.
whatever
I-
accounting period that is.
And even if I was somebody and it was a month after the accounting, I would still even say that's a reasonable. If it was a year, maybe not.
Right.
Well, because of the requirements on the
Yes.
filings, you have to
Right.
reconcile everything with every filing.
Yeah.
And at a minimum, every PAC has to file a report at minimum twice a year with the state.
Hmm.
And if there's an election period, then there's more frequent than that.
That's okay.
Under the Texas Election Code, Title 15, Chapter 253.
254, looking at best.
Okay, it's that they use the term political committee.
Just political committee, not action.
Correct. Well, I haven't read the whole thing. Somebody with a more legal brain than me, there's stuff in there that talks about they have to have a treasurer working at the time that
Before announcing your candidacy, you must have a treasurer filed. Yes.
you accept it. Without the treasurer,
Then-
that's a violation too.
And the PACs have to have a treasurer at all.
So there is a definition of best efforts under
Mhm.
campaign reporting.
So you said that they're supposed to do a report every month?
Well, just in normal accounting.
Okay.
Yeah, month end close, quarter close, year close, but if PACs have a requirement to file twice a year on non-election years, but whatever election years require, 14 days to 30 days after a closing period.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Okay.
No, that's accurate. It's twice a year, the semi-annual report. And then during election, if you're running for an election, then you'll have your
30-day and 8-day.
30-day, your 8-day, and then if there's a runoff, you'll have another filing.
She's our expert in this.
Yeah.
So that additional language in there, though, adds a level of accountability, right? So if you didn't uncover it, somebody should have,
Mhm.
and you should have been reported 14 days or less after that.
After you.
So
find
it's
out.
another perspective violation, right? So like you're not only in violation of doing whatever it was that put you subject to this, you're also in violation because it would have been uncovered at your normal like cadence where it's reviewed. But I did not infer that without all of this discussion.
And there's stiff penalties for not filing those reports. Like $500 a day penalties.
Yes, that is accurate.
There you go.
She's my expert on things because she has.
This is great. Any other questions about this particular article or like just items for discussion before we move in? And I'm asking that out loud and I'm gonna answer my own question. As it happens, but so I thought it was interesting, just really quickly discussion on like the timing of the commission's announcement. So I want to highlight that we have very specific timeline requirements within our own procedures. That makes it more of a quick turn as far as it doesn't leave the complaint out there. So I don't know that, we obviously don't have procedures for an expedited proceedings. But I think our current procedures are sufficient to continue to move it forward in a timely fashion. But I thought it was interesting that he's putting it back on the board saying, why are you doing this before the election and you're trying to speed things up? But I think our process, as we have it written, in my opinion, and a bias because we helped draft them, has time benchmarks that we have to meet.
And that would be regardless of an election or anything,
Correct.
you just follow, and I think that's smart, that's a good way.
Standard.
Right, there's a consistency.
Well, and I think that also hopefully prevents the perception of bias, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, you did this to do that. Well, no, these are our standards. We have them in
Yes.
place.
That's fine.
But just wanted to highlight that because I think that's
But
something.
theoretically, if the election happened within the parameters, and you'd say, we have to report by 14 days or whatever it is, and that the election was 11 days out. You could, you could potentially affect an election. Hey, the guy's a crook. I would want it affected, frankly.
That was the other side of it, I would wanna know.
That's what the board said, right? It's for
Give me my
voter
bucket,
transparency.
So under 299, under Independent Ethics Review Board, you also have an opportunity as you're looking at whether or not it's accurate or not, or frivolous. You look at the nature and type of any publicity surrounding the filing of the sworn complaint. With the participation by the person filing the complaint and publicizing the fact that a sworn complaint was filed. So if it was done just 11 days before the election, you would all take that into consideration. But as far as trying to speed it up, we still have Open Records and Open Meetings Act requirements to post and that sort of thing. So we could not do a whole lot of speed.
Well, and logistically, it was challenging because you're talking about outside counsel too, prospectively, right? Like, trying to get on their calendars and get it, that was a challenge that we faced historically.
And also the calendar of the person who was accused.
Correct.
But it's still a shame, election could be lost on the false allegation.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
And realistically, I mean, well, somebody has to give us, file the complaint. We can't go out there and initiate it. And
Yeah, you can.
You could file it, but then you wouldn't be part of the investigation,
we're not like
which is why we have alternates.
other government agencies that are weaponized. The disclosure of this would most probably come from the person's opponent. They would go, oh, well, so-and-so charges filed against them, and they would spread it way before we were involved. Putting it on social media or calling.
Any other thoughts on this particular article before we go into the actual discussion? Okay, the next item is our workshop to review, actually a couple things. One, we uncovered through our discussion of an article last meeting, that section 277 subsection B, excuse me, it just said official employment, and we added or business relationship, so that broadened it. I'm not gonna split hairs, but I don't know that we need to say or consultant, because a consultant is a type of vendor, but it just said has an employment, and we've broadened that to include or business relationship. I don't know that we need both. Open to. It doesn't hurt to leave it.
Yeah.
I just don't know that.
It doesn't hurt to
Hurt to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would leave it.
Those are suspenders.
So we're all good with those changes in that particular section. Okay. Moving along. 2-103, this is the meat and potatoes of our meeting. Mitigate sanctions. I do like that we've already drafted and added one or more of the following. And to that end, Meredith, excuse me, subsection F, where it says or, does it need to say and or? Because if we're allowing to do one or more, when you get to the bottom where it's the final one. I can have that, sorry. But does anybody, we're gonna take it section by section, but is everybody good with the one or more of the following sanctions? So that way if they're, okay. Great. And so I think E is where E and F. Let me take G real quick because I feel like we probably have alignment there. Reimbursement of reasonable legal costs. Being able to actually recoup some of that or request some of that. I don't have any issues with that. Does anybody have any concerns?
So if I understand too, what such reimbursement shall not exceed the amount of a monetary fine. So if from E or F, the fine was $5,000, if it cost the city $10,000 just to, they could only get 5 from this person, yes? Make sure.
And this would only be in a conviction. So if someone filed a false accusation, we would not recover those fees.
So G's good.
Any changes on G? Is everyone else okay with it? Okay, sorry, check that off too. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, E and F. So this is where we have some samples from some other cities. So we've seen San Francisco that assessed upwards of $191,000 for one and $108,000, if I recall correctly, for another. That they settled down to 25. For a repeat offender, anyways. The other was a $500,000 prospective impact. Obviously, we don't know if it's an impact to the city, impact to the person, but we're talking about $500,000 under review for their ethics board. So one of the suggestions we had was up to 50% of the economic gains received or sought. And then F was up to X amount fine.
So if we had the Nashville case, she asked for $500,000. To get to keep 250 of it. Plus whatever legal fees she gets started.
Well, it all depends on, so up to 50% of the economic gain, and then could there be multiple violations to increase the amount? So then could it be more than that 250?
San Antonio, Jordanton, I don't know if I butchered that, but they both, and Green Bay, Wisconsin, all were $500 fines. Seattle, Washington had monetary fine up to $5,000 per violation or 3 times the economic value of anything sought or received, whichever is greater.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a fine.
Yeah. Or I do put a 1 in front of the 5, so up to 150% of economic gains. Make it painful for them to do something.
$500 is not going to get somebody's attention.
No, but so in
Yeah, Seattle's will.
in C,
2,000.
right,
I still don't think that does.
I would make it,
It used to be.
if I were writing this alone, I would have it so that the penalty exceeds whatever it was you were gonna make. If you ask for $100,000, we're gonna hit you for 150,000, and it's really not worth it to you to play that game here. That's only if I'm writing the policy. The rest of you have to.
Have mixed feelings. So I definitely think that the penalty should be a deterrent, right? So, this process in and of itself should be a deterrent, and the public nature of it. I think the outcome, if there's something egregious, there should be something that holds people accountable. That being said, I also think we need to consider, and I don't want to say average, but we want to be prepared for a large infraction, but you also want to be mindful of what we see on an ongoing basis and the approval process to actually implement the changes. So there has to be some sort of a reasonable, I don't know what it is. I don't have a number and like, I haven't, gotten that far. But when we're talking about this, keeping in mind of, okay, what's a deterrent? What's also a reasonable deterrent, right? That doesn't look like we're trying to assert the authority of the board. It's a mixed bag. That's why I have mixed feelings, because I do think it needs to be something that deters and that is truly holding someone accountable. But I also think we want to get it to a place where we feel good about it, and that others will feel good about it as well, and it can be actually implemented.
So you threw it on the table. What do you think that should be?
I don't know. I said I don't have a number prepared, but I'm just,
$105,000, 105%. Like.
Or yeah.
Because you're thinking equivalent and then some. Equivalent.
So if you try playing that game here
They both are, just,
and you're found guilty,
But
you're not gonna break even.
punitive, whereas 105 is just like, don't do it,
Or do we go through penalty by penalty and go, okay, if you get a letter of admonition, this could be a fine of up to $500. If you get the next thing, you can get that plus this financial, and then so the more serious the violation, the higher the financial penalty.
That's what Seattle kind of has, it looks like. That's what they have in theirs.
How they,
that's it.
not only what they made, not only monetary, not only cash, not only, but
Reputation?
well, reputation is done, I would think, but future gains, I don't know. I mean, you do something wrong and you set something up for 10 years from now. I'm just throwing crazy things out.
Okay.
You know,
So go ahead, build the warehouse in 2025 and in 2035.
yeah, I get $250,000.
And what is our enforcement power? If we said,
You're next at 9-year term, so you won't be sitting here.
no, but I'm saying, does the ethics?
You didn't even know about a payment 10 years later.
Well, no, but I'm saying, so what's our enforcement ability if we found somebody tomorrow guilty of something and it was a $2,000 fine? How do we make sure that that $2,000 fine is paid? Or do they just sit there and go, yep, it'll show up on my credit rating and I'm still not paying it?
How do we establish how much that person made from that bribe? I mean, how do we know?
Audit trail.
I mean, the accountants of the group, how do we find that out? Give me a bag of cash.
Well, the person who put the money in the cash hopefully counted it. But I can see it like reputation wise.
Reputation. Well, the guy in San Francisco, reputation doesn't matter. He's.
Right.
Different city.
We got elected again or
Well,
kept playing.
we have, yeah, and do we have anything if you're a repeat offender, like, does it get worse?
Well, this is drafted so that you have the discretion. So
Yeah.
as you go through it, you can look at it and say, okay, as Andrew said, if you're gonna get this letter and this fine. Or, we're gonna recommend council removes you and gives you a fine. Or you could say there's 4 different violations. We think this violation's a slap on the wrist. This violation, you didn't really mean to do it. This violation, wow, you have to give all your pets back to the animal shelter because you're just a bad person. And then we're gonna fine you under this one. So you can do multiple sentences depending on what you think the violation is. You could stack them, you could do them individually. Or you could say, you know what, these 3 are just whatever. This one's so bad, we're gonna focus on this one. And forget the rest because they don't even matter because this one is so bad.
So in the spirit of ambiguity,
Yeah.
what if?
I don't like ambiguity.
I know, well, and I don't either,
This is-
but in this arena, like it. Because it's so gray that this is where I would like a little ambiguity so that you can actually make a informed decision and you have opportunity. Instead of saying like up to 50% of economic gains or up to 100% or 130% or whatever 3 times, what if you just say up to the economic gains received? And then,
Yeah, because then they have to.
and then you have to do analysis, right? And you have to actually have something to justify it, right? But it leaves it open.
Up to the total economic gains received or sought.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it's
Yeah,
received.
just, and let's leave it there, and then should there,
Yeah.
and then you can still have a $2,000 fine. Right, so like, if it is non-economic gains, if there's not $500,000, but I have a massive conflict of interest, I did not abstain from voting, and somebody files a violation against me, it's substantiated, you can still fine me. There's no, perhaps I didn't actually have an economic gain, it was my brother. It was my good friend and I was trying to help him out, I don't know. But point being, if there's no economic gain, then you still have your fee that
Yes.
you can assess.
Yes.
And you still have your letter of admonition if it's not severe. You have the scale, but we're not set on 100%, 50%, you just up to.
That's why I like Seattle. It's nice and clean. And
I like the Seattle.
I like Seattle too. That's where, and it's impossible, but you said out all your points. How about restricting them from running for office in Sugar Land again? Can we do that?
Can't do that.
That's for the voters.
I can't, if they're accused of an ethic violation, why would we let them run? You have a San Francisco situation.
You can suggest a recall, correct? In that one, like where we,
Sometime about.
State law, state constitution, we don't have the ability to regulate, other than if you're convicted of a crime of moral turpitude. I mean, we have,
it was one of the things we added to the charter, right?
yeah, the last time, but it's already under state law anyway.
Right.
So state law, election code, if you're convicted of a crime of moral turpitude, then you cannot run. You have to meet residency requirements, age requirements. That's the only restrictions we can place on there. We cannot say just because,
You're a repeat.
you made a mistake, so you're gonna be out forever. We can't do that.
Not a mistake.
So what's
We don't have the authority to do that.
a painful number?
I either,
So if there, as Chris said, if there's no financial gain, what's a painful number?
is
Help
is
here.
2,000, is 5,000, is 10,000? Should it be one of those? What do people think?
I like Seattle.
What was Seattle?
They have up to a fine, so they have $5,000 per violation. Or the 3 times economic value.
That gets your attention.
However, they do have those smaller ones for these other items of 1,000 and 250 after. I would eliminate those and just leave the first 2 parts of that sentence.
When you say up to, doesn't mean you have to go to 5,000.
That's right.
Right.
That's correct.
I guess that's where if it's a repeat offender.
I just don't like the 3 times. I mean, I just, it feels, if I'm reading, if I'm not on this board, so I like, from a personal ethics standpoint, yeah, like. Definitely, if you're doing something wrong that's egregious and substantial and huge monetary, I like personally, like I agree with that. But from an external person,
But wouldn't it behoove the person that's running to understand and know what all these are before they throw their name in that? To understand if they're in violation of any of these things, they're gonna be faced with 3 times economic value. That's how I see it.
What about to throw an option out there? So using Seattle's, just impose a monetary fine up to $5,000 per violation or 100% of the economic value of anything sought or received in violation of, and stop it there. And then C and D were similar to what we already have, but don't have the small one. Just have up to 5,000 and or up to 100%. You would say 100, either 100 or 105, but 100% of the gain received or sought. Could everybody get behind that?
100% still leaves them at a deficit if they have to hire a lawyer.
105 increases.
well, but you get there, because you could, it's up to and including, right? So meaning. you could do a penalty.
No matter what,
Mhm.
we could say, instead of saying or, we could
That's why
say and or.
I asked for the
Yeah.
and or, so like if you do the and or, like you're not capped, but then you can have some discernment.
Okay, so if we were to reread and say, impose a monetary fine of up to $5,000 per violation and or 100% of the economic value of anything sought or received in violation. Would people be good with that?
What's the city's
A
cost?
long way from Seattle. I mean,
No, I know, but it gives the higher number without the lower numbers. I was trying to avoid giving the lower
I'm
number.
okay with,
Yeah.
I don't think you wanna itemize.
Right, that's
Like
what I mean.
that gets too
Exactly,
granular.
that's why I didn't wanna go there. I didn't wanna say different ones, so.
I would support right now, 100%.
Out of your office and city, for the 3 cases that ethics had dealt, like ballpark.
I know the first one was around 10,000,
Okay,
first attorney, and then the second one was around.
okay, so that also.
That's
falls with
interesting.
Seattle,
Well, yes, but think about the number of meetings you had
Yes.
for each
yeah,
one.
Fair,
and Seattle does say that.
They would charge the same per hour.
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
That they can
C&D
require reimbursement for
Yeah,
up to $10,000 sustained by the city that were caused by the violation and were not recovered by the city.
you know, whether
But
wherever we have our C and D elements in ours, I think are okay. We're focused really on that kind of top thing item, so. Keep throwing that proposal out.
Yeah,
We vote on a proposal.
Andrews, I like the 100, I like the 105. Some parts, I like the 105, something a little bit.
I'll go 150, you're not scaring me.
You said 120, you said 120.
I like it. I like 150. I'll see you 150, I'll raise you 10%.
There's nothing to say that we don't do the 105 if that's what we end up with, plus the 5,000, plus the attorney fees, or whatever combination we do. I mean, we can do any multiple of them.
That's why like softening the language into the percentages and like pulling that back can be favorable as far as receipt. Right, like from like an approval process.
So you're saying up to the total economic gains.
They're saying 105%. I was saying 100%. They were saying 105%. I was just trying to get us.
We'd phrase it as
At 150.
up to 105% and or $5,000. That,
And or up to 100.
so we could hit you for 105% of whatever you took and 5,000 on top of it. And is that per charge?
The 5,000 could be.
Okay.
Could be per violation.
Clarify. Okay.
Because the economic benefit, you're gonna add all that up anyway, and so that would.
Okay, so now the proposal is impose a fine of up to $5,000 per violation and or 105% of the economic value of anything sought or received in violation.
I knew behind that.
I know it's a workshop. I don't know if.
You're not voting.
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't think.
I would bring draft language back, and then when you have enough draft language to go to council, we'll go. We're not in.
So Meredith, would council approve this? That wording?
That's a great question. I do not know the current council well enough.
A lot of-
I haven't had enough meetings for me to understand just their thought process yet. So I can't even hazard a guess. The old council, I know you'd get your 5,000 approved. It's kind of a tricky question because they're sitting up there, everybody's watching, they want to do the right thing.
Mhm.
Right thing.
That's why.
They don't have to worry about this clause.
Understand that, but I mean, you've got the perception balance with reality and.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Well,
thought.
if they highlighted
can
this
steal-
3 times in Seattle, maybe then they'd say, oh, well, then we're not asking for
And
that.
unlike Seattle, ours will.
Wrap it and say,
We-
they did talk about.
Well, I did a report with it and said they looked at various cities, including Seattle, and the range they looked at was 3 times down to.
One time.
They can do that, yes.
And if the penalty can go up to 5,000. We offered a possible. Bone saying we'll remove. the clause about having to reimburse the city for the cost?
Mm-mm.
No, we wanna keep the,
Yeah, because we're, again, to me, to Kristen, when
If they don't know, we can.
Goes.
you're talking about leaving some degrees of freedom, if you will.
Correct.
And that's why, to me, doing it the way we're saying, it doesn't mean it's an and or, it doesn't mean they will have to pay 100%.
It won't exceed that.
It's just up to, that's what it could
I
be.
do think if you take out the percentages, it feels softer from a stakeholder, like, as someone who had to negotiate this with executives, like, if you, if you're reading this and you're sitting, it's not under the vein of deception, it's just like your initial human response when you see it, like, you're like, okay, a letter of admonition, great, a reprimand, sure, censure, and I do think you flip. I do think you flip E and E, you go, oh, up to 5,000 fine, okay, per violation, all right. And then if you say up to, up to economic gains received, yeah, that makes reasonable sense. But when you start seeing up to 105%, you start thinking about that, you put dollars to it immediately. And it's pro and con. So it's pro from the deterrent standpoint. It's challenging when it needs to go through an approval process as a person that feels. We've heard before from some of the recommendations that we've had historically, they've been very receptive to a lot of the stuff we've taken, but we've had feedback where it says, okay, we're always under fire. Like people, this is the wrong language and not what was used, but like they're out to get us. Like sometimes they feel under fire. And I think you feel less under fire when you're reading, if you're coming from that perspective, like leaving it less granular and like 105%, like we're coming at, like, versus just
And the
up to,
economic.
and just
The
and
entire-
up to the economic value. Because hear me out, if it is so egregious that you want that 5%, you're gonna get it between legal fees, you're gonna get it between fines per violation. If it is that substantial, they have violated multiple sections of the code.
And you can do the.
And you're gonna get there to get to the outcome that you want. But to get across the goalpost, I feel like softening it. But again,
Too, it's, I mean, I'm a big proponent of, you can say what you want, it's all on how you say it, and I agree with what you're saying. And if we can get up to total economic gains received or sought, then I'm willing to forego.
it's making it whole. So you can
Yeah.
make the argument, we're trying to make the city whole, we're
Land
trying to
better.
make the population of Sugar Land whole from these actions that were in violation. And then there is still a fee and penalties. I don't know. I could be totally wrong and 105% could play, and I don't not support the 105%. I'm just thinking strategically.
I agree with you. And so I think you're right. If you say without putting the percentage in and just say up to the economic value of anything sought, we probably would have a better chance at getting that through.
I just want to clarify, the reason why some of them were not approved before is because they were concerned about a lot of false accusations.
Yes.
So I don't want it to sound like they were trying to break. the
No,
rules.
no.
Their concern was that they're false allegations.
But that's.
Well, we're being recorded and I want to make sure that I'm not.
No, and I mean, and the language, and that's why I kept saying the language, this is not what was said, but like it felt like that's how they would feel,
That's our job to determine false.
Absolutely. I just didn't want it to sound like I was disparaging, saying they were not honest.
Not after city council, but people are doing things.
And every time we propose an update or a change, we always explain that this is not a document against just you on the dais. This covers every appointed and elected officials, including us.
Well, it's to protect them, I mean, they're doing the right
And
thing.
future.
Right, we're not making a whole document and a committee just to mess with the people up
No,
there.
that's-
This is everybody you appoint, everybody we elect.
It's an accountability, but it's also a protection, right? So if I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing and someone else is not, then, I want to make sure that like I have the means to do, to uphold what I'm doing, and also that somebody else who's not doing the right thing gets held accountable. So it's also to help protect them.
And we've danced around, so now do we go back to impose a monetary fine of up to $5,000 per violation and or the total economic value of anything sought or received in violation? Can people get around that?
And I'm up to, like, I'm totally up to if we wanna put the 105 and see what happens, I'm fine with that too. Like, it's not a,
Either or, yeah.
yeah, like.
I'd rather go with something that we go in there once.
Right.
To me,
Likely to get
it's
it.
a lot more penalty than what is currently in.
Well, and this was never in there before to begin with, right? So we're moving the needle from
Yes.
here to potentially, you know,
It still gets your attention.
correct.
Mhm.
And it makes sense. You can justify it and explain, you know, like it's about, you know, making people whole, right? Like if you have defrauded, just it's not the right word because it's technically fraud. But if you have done something that costs the city or could prospectively cost the city this much money, like we want that back.
I can get around 100.
So
And I think
You really came down there.
it's a negotiation.
I'm trying to move us forward.
That's right.
If I added the words.
You went from 300 to 100.
I just want to make sure that the penalty is the crime, that these people, you know, San Antonio is $500. Oh. You know,
I know.
Well, that was where I was before. It, you know, there were people in, what was it, at UCLA or USC, that was 3 months ago when we met.
Yes.
And I'm like, hey, if I make $100,000 and I have to pay two, no, I'd like to say I'm a very ethical person, but there's plenty of people out there that would pay $2,000 to get $100,000.
Buying a lottery ticket.
But not in this city.
I also remember we've presented stuff to them that we wanted changed. And it wasn't accepted. And then it came back. Later. We're like, oh. Wish we had accepted it when you guys offered it. So. There's a better chance of them
Evolving.
going, oh yeah, if they're telling us we should put this in here. Last time we didn't listen to them, didn't work out in our favor.
So that's why we should go 125 and settle for 100.
Yeah.
So we have the total economic gains received and a $5,000 maximum fine.
Yes,
For violation.
yes. Can we see?
And
We'll
or.
switch them.
Mhm.
When are they scheduled to vote?
Oh, I'm gonna go back and see how many, we just took a bunch of changes, so I need to see.
Yeah,
how
we'll have to-
many changes you have.
Vote on the. She'll draft the changes. It'll come to the next meeting. We'll vote and approve or change if we need to, and then that goes into your scheduling. Yeah.
I don't wanna take an ordinance to them every 2 months.
No.
Right.
So I wanna take a bunch because I always ask you all to come and sit at this meeting because this is your recommendation, not mine. I'm just the drafter.
Yeah.
And so instead of making you show up every other month at council and doing line after line, I'd rather take several changes at once.
Yes.
Unless you believe that this change is so important that it has to occur now, then I will take it out of sequence and take a big change right then and
I
there.
see it more. It has to be done before the next election.
Okay.
Or December 1st, whichever comes. First. And or December 1st, whichever
Later of.
is sooner.
Well, it has to come to our next meeting
Which isn't for 3 months.
quarterly.
See, we don't meet again until January. So it'll
I'm
be-
just gonna bake you guys Christmas cookies and stuff.
Chris,
Thank you, my address.
do we have any other changes, comments?
Or request for the next meeting.
A follow-up on the article would be fantastic.
Yeah.
We have inquiring minds. We'd like to know.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor? Aye.